Business plans don't work, especially if you've never run a business before. Man, I just made this old German man and his 2 daughters so much richer. That you're willing to work as hard for yourself as you work for other people. Like, are you afraid of the growth? Are you scared? Do you not believe in yourself? Like, get down to the root of the issue.
So I'll come and climb up so high, reaching for a bite, yeah, because forbidden fruit is the sweetest kind.
Hey everyone, it's Edyn. I feel like my camera is really high today, but anyhow, we're gonna get into this video because I'm not readjusting this angle. This video is about why I left my full-time job to be, as Evelyn from the internet says, fun employed. So I just want to answer all of the questions that you guys have, because I tried to tell it like story time, and you ended up going back to like my first job. I just like blabbed on about things that were completely not relevant at all. So I figured I would do it this way, tell you guys exactly what you want to know. And yeah, so the first question is, I never knew exactly what you did. Are you able to share much about it? I'm not able to share that much about it. I'll share kind of an umbrella of it, because I'm not one to burn bridges. You never know when you might have to go back to work, and I have no problem with going back to work. I actually have a whole podcast about how after the adpocalypse so many YouTubers freaked out and opened Patreons, and I was like, do these people really think that they can't get a job? Like, why are they so against going to work? I understand that you can't create as much, but if you have to pay your bills, that's just a sacrifice you make, you know what I mean? So I can't share a lot about it because my previous job has a pretty strict social media policy. So I want to respect that just in case, and because I have had a subscriber come to my job before. So I think it's pretty universal that most YouTubers don't say where they work, because it's just one of those things as far as privacy and safety, because not everyone that watches you is a fan of you or likes you. So if you say where you work, it can be kind of dangerous. Don't you agree? Anyhow, my channel name is Celebrity Typical Day. So I worked in travel and tourism, and at the time when I made this channel, I was specifically working with celebrities. So I would help with their travel, help with things like if they have tour buses coming into the area, making sure that the city has space blocked off for Willie Nelson because he wants to stay in his bus, but all of his musicians are going to stay at this hotel, and the musicians need this, that, and the other. So making sure that the hotel delegates all of that throughout their departments. And then on top of that, working with conferences, like citywide conferences like South by Southwest, Austin City Limits, Austin Film Festival, all of the big festivals, to make sure that there are enough hotel rooms available throughout the city, that our city is outbidded in bigger cities for more programs to come to the city, because that's how most cities fund themselves, through travel and tourism. So that's what I did, kind of umbrella of what I did. But previous to that, I was a medical assistant, and previous to that, I worked for a radio station. So yeah, what were you doing, and what made your spirit say nah to it? So I kind of just explained what I was doing. In addition to that, sometime during my channel, I think my contract ended last September, I was also assigned songwriter. So I worked for a record label, and then I worked for the development company that was in the travel and tourism realm. And what made my spirit say nah to it? I was at the point in my career where I had I'd been in the executive office for a couple of years, and I'd been in the same position. Companies don't typically like for their senior employees to stay in the same position for too long. I really liked my position because it allowed me the freedom to still make YouTube videos and still have some work-life balance. But I was to the point where I needed to promote either up or out. So I needed to go up to the next position or relocate with my same company to a new city. Either one of those would have basically meant that I wouldn't have been able to make YouTube videos anymore. Or if I did, it would be maybe once a month. The time that I had would be very small. So I wouldn't be able to share everything that I loved on YouTube. I'd have to stick to one thing, and that one thing would probably be body positivity, because there's enough vegan videos out there. I'd probably talk about veganism and things on Instagram like that, and platforms like that, but most of what I love to do on my channel would have been lost if I stayed at my job. And that just wasn't something that I wanted. And I'll talk about it more as we go through the questions, because I think that there's another question relating to this. How much did you save before leaving? I saved enough for a year if I didn't make a penny on YouTube. So over the past year and a half, when I started making more money on YouTube, I took that money to pay off any debt that I had, any credit card debt, any lingering school loan type stuff, anything that I felt would like hold me down when I decided to leave my full-time job. I paid that off, and then I started saving. So I had enough money for a year. I hope that helps. The next person has a few questions. Was the change scary? Yes, the change was very scary, but I think most things that are worthwhile in your life should scare you, or they're probably not worth you doing, right? The two is, did you have a backup plan? My backup plan is always just to go to work. And I don't know why this is overthought so much. If you need money, you get a job, because even if you get a job, that doesn't mean you're giving up on your dream or your hobby or your side hustle or your side business or your Etsy shop or whatever it is. You're just using that job to fund the other thing, right? So maybe it's not the job you had before because it was taking too much time from what you love, but maybe you can get a part-time job or something to make sure that your main goal, which is usually your side thing that you're passionate about, is profitable, if that makes sense. Did they try to stop you? Yes. They offered big raise for me to stay, relocation, because they knew that I wanted to be in California. But if I moved to California, it would have meant that I wouldn't be able to do this. So I think that we were just not on the same page there, because everyone there is very business minded and they don't understand like people being dreamers, really. So they're like, well, what do you mean you don't want it? This is all the money. We'll get you an assistant. We'll get you this. We'll get you that. But it just wasn't worth it for me. And did you prepare at all, which I answered in the last question. And is it better? Thanks in advance. I think better is really relative. I think it's different. I don't think it's better though, because there are certain things that I miss about working in a corporate environment, like being able to be heavily involved in charity things. And now if I want to do charity, it's just like donate a little here and a little there. But when you're with a big business, you can make a bigger impact. And things like, I want to enrich and build up my community, which I mean the Black community and the fat community. And at work, that was a lot easier because I could go to my execs and say, hey, I notice a lot of our lower level employees are Black, African American, or people of color in general. Is there something we can do to get them on the job training? Are there ways that we can get them shadowing in other departments so that we can see more people of color in management positions? And they say, you know, we never noticed that. But then they talk to HR and they send it to our higher ups, and then the higher ups come down and they say, you know, that was a great idea. We noticed that at a lot of our properties. Here are the people that you're gonna work with to make these changes and to see what we can do to help. Now it's harder to do that because you can't fund those kind of things on your own. So that's been different, and that's not better for me, because I always want to like do and fix and help, but now it's on much smaller scale. Anyhow. How did you deal with fear? I read this book called Going Scared, and I think that anyone that is fearful of following their dreams or starting a business or doing something that you love and seeing if it can make you money or seeing if it can make an impact or whatever it is, you should really read that that book, because I think a lot of the times we're like, just put on your big girl panties and throw fear, cast fear aside and just go for it. But sometimes it's not that easy. Fear just festers inside of you and you're just so scared. But even if you're scared, you still have to do it. You still have to go and do. So I think how you handle fear is you just, sometimes it's fine to ignore it, but sometimes you really just have to embrace it and do whatever you want to do anyways. How do you establish a routine without a typical job? So that has been something that's been difficult for me, because at my job, I had an assistant, and well, my previous, I've had a few positions within the same industry, but you always have an assistant or some kind of structure, right? So I just say, I'm going to meet with this client at this time, I'm going to meet with this client at this time. I worked in the sales and marketing department. I don't know if I said that. I meet with the social media company at this time, and then we have daily business review at this time, we have revenue call at this time, we have director of sales meeting at this time, and that's just how your day is structured. So there's structure for you. So basically I just did what I did at work. I took my weekly checklist that I had at work, and then I just kind of merged it into a work from home checklist, and I just make sure that I have designated working times. So if you've seen my 5 a.m. morning routine, I work for like 2 hours in the morning, take a couple of hours of break just to do like my morning stuff, and then I work throughout the rest of the day. And usually I have about a 9 to 10 hour work day. So I just had to structure my work from home job the way that I structured my work at work job. Besides YouTube, do you self-employ? So I sing for a few churches, and they buy the track, so it's like on a freelance basis. It's cheaper than employing like a full-time like music team, because some churches do have to pay their bands, and some churches just don't have enough people to volunteer for their worship team. So if they need a bigger sound, sometimes they'll buy backing tracks if they don't want to use multi-tracks or Worship Together, which are Christian music software that have pre-packaged vocals that you can buy. So I do that. And another thing that I do is white label content. So I know that my channel is not everyone's cup of tea, and that people don't always want to sponsor me specifically. But if they like my content, I can make content for them. So you may notice these hands on some websites. So some companies that I really love, I'll reach out to them and be like, you know what I really love seeing on brands' Instagram feeds? I really love seeing such and such types of videos. Would you be interested in sponsoring a video? If not, I can make this kind of cool content for your Instagram. And those are just like little freelance jobs that I do, since I did come from sales and marketing. Yeah, so I do that in addition to this. Okay, that's pretty much all that I'm doing freelancing right now. I was doing some coaching, but I'll pick that up when I revisit the fitness challenge. So yeah. Advice for getting courage to leave. So one, you have to have faith in yourself. If you're scrappy and you know that you're willing to go after business and do whatever you need to make ends meet, then that should give you enough courage as it is. And also knowing that your 9 to 5 is pulling from your side hustle. Like for a while, I was getting contacted by a lot of companies, or I was reaching out to companies and they were wanting me to do stuff, but I didn't have enough time. I was like, okay, so I'm making this much here, and I could be making this much over here, but this place is pulling from here. So that was frustrating for me. So that kind of gave me the courage to know that I'd be okay. But I don't feel like everyone should leave their job. I feel like there are very specific instances where you should, and then there are other instances where you should be smarter and realize that you're helping fund your job by staying at your 9 to 5. But advice on getting the courage to leave, yeah, just knowing that you have a good savings, that you have enough income coming in, and that you're willing to be scrappy, because it takes a lot of time and to like have a profitable business, and you need to make sure that everything that you're doing at home has a return on investment. Next, what didn't you expect happening that actually happened? Hope you're loving it. Algorithm switches. Yeah, like I had people message me last week and they're like, hope you're okay, I see you haven't posted in a few weeks. And I'm like, I post like 3 videos a week, 2 or 3 videos a week, and you just don't know with algorithms like Instagram, YouTube. You can't control when people see your videos, if they show up in their subscription boxes. I've talked to YouTube, they only push out your videos to a certain amount of your subscriber base, and then based on how your video performs in the first 2 hours, that tells them if they want to send it out to the rest of your subscribers. Because people are subscribed to so many people, YouTube does more of a curated subscription box than who you're actually subscribed to. I haven't had water, I'm getting tongue-tied. So yeah, that's been something that I wasn't unexpected, because it had been on the up and up for a while. I had experienced it maybe like 8 months ago, and then things kind of leveled out, and now it's kind of like back to a weird point, but we'll get through it. I've been on YouTube for over 9 years, so it is what it is. Are you happier now? Yes and no. I love YouTube, but I also loved my job. I know a lot of people, okay, sorry, my memory card was full, so I had to take care of that. But yeah, I really loved my job, and I love the company that I worked for. I love what they're doing in so many different cities to help really, I don't know, just make a huge difference, and really bringing services to cities that enrich the community. And I love them. And when like my VPs would come into town, it wasn't like the VPs are coming, make sure everything looks great, make sure, you know, it wasn't like that. It's like open arms. I'm so happy to see you. What have you been doing in these other cities? We're so excited to be a part of this, and I miss that, and I loved that. So I'm very happy doing YouTube, but I feel like a little piece of me is missing, because I've always been a corporate girl. Not always, but I have been a corporate girl for a really long time now, and I felt like being a boss bitch was like part of my identity, which I'm still a boss bitch now. But being able to train people and build a team and make a difference in my community, I know all of those things will come for me in my new chapter, but I just miss them. So I'm happier, but it's just very different. How did your parents advise / feel about it? My mom hates it. I mean, she's super proud of me, and it took like me actually showing her like dollar for dollar what I made for her to be like okay with it. But she would still rather me have like a typical 9 to 5, like just in case, because you know the internet's unpredictable. Any kind of self-employment really is unpredictable. So my mom was very worried. My dad's super gung-ho about it, super supportive. So you know, your parents gotta let you do you when it comes down to it. I'm like 30, so my parents don't have that much input on my life. The next question is, do you miss it? I kind of just answered that. Were you scared? I've answered that. The next question is, I know it's personal, but what in the world do you do for healthcare? You pay for it. I think we overthink a lot of things when it comes down to being self-employed, like what happens if I'm not making enough money, or what happens if I lose this account or lose this client. It's like, well, if you lose this client, you find a new client, or if you don't find a new client, you pick up a seasonal job. And if you need healthcare, you pay for healthcare. You know, that's just what you do. And I left my job it wasn't open enrollment. So what I did was I went with a Christian MediShare. So I have been to the doctor, and it's basically just like insurance, and they give you a code for your taxes so that you don't get the penalty if you have Christian MediShare. So basically you pay just like you would insurance for the month, and then if you go to the doctor, you elect self-pay, and then you submit your bill to the MediShare, and you're never responsible for paying more than your deductible divided up throughout the year, and then the share covers it. So different shares work different ways. Sometimes the share sends you a check, sometimes families from the share send you a check, but you're covered, and you don't get the tax penalty. But I did, open enrollment starts November 1st, so I'll be enrolling just to pay free market healthcare after that. But I just did this as a gap so that I know that I was covered. Like, I have my ankle. But yeah, you just pay for it. How long did it take you to decide to leave your full-time job? I had planned to leave my job last April. So not this April that just passed, the April before that. I said a year from now, I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna be working from home. So I took a year to prepare for it. Like, I researched healthcare, I researched different things. I really made sure that I was paying attention at work, because I worked in the sales and marketing department, and YouTube is sales and marketing. So I took that time to make sure that I had a proposal template, make sure that I had a pitch template, make sure that I had a media kit, made sure that I had invoice templates, made sure that I had a budget, make sure that I actually budgeted and paid attention to things that I needed and I didn't needed. Like, what in my lifestyle were wants, what in my lifestyle were needs. Like, I want to trade in my car every year. And I did that. Up until last year, I decided you're gonna stop trading in your car and you're just gonna take care of the one you have. I used to trade in my car because I didn't feel like getting it inspected. You know, you have to get your annual inspection and emissions test. I'm like, I don't feel like doing that. I'll just go get a new car. Ridiculous. I don't need to do that. So that's what I did during the whole deciding phase. So I had decided a year ago, and then I gave my company a 6-month lead time. Like I said, we're very close, we're like a family. Most people are like, don't do that, they're gonna fire you. No, they're not. They needed me. But the reason I gave them so much time was they didn't know that some systems even existed. I was the only person that knew how to do so many things. I remember my boss ranting and raving because our field marketing team, because I was in sales and marketing, then we have field marketing, told him that there was someone on site that updated the website. And he's like, they don't know what they're talking about. I've been sending them updates for years. And I'm like, yeah, they send them to me. I update our website. And he's like, oh, you? Yeah, I update our website. I've updated it for years. Like, there are back-end systems that people that kind of interface with our sales and marketing system that no one else knew how to use. There's so many just little nuanced things about my position that no one had any clue how to do, that a 2-month notice wouldn't have worked. A 2-week notice definitely wouldn't have worked. So we started looking for someone probably 4 months into my 6-month notice. We hired someone. Come April, when I was supposed to leave, we decided to separate from that person because he just wasn't able to do what I was doing, and I wasn't feeling comfortable with it. They weren't feeling comfortable with it. So then I extended my time until the end of June. So I stayed until they could hire another person. They brought in a new director. I gave her like a crash course. They gave her about 2 months to catch up, and then we hired one more person to replace me technically, because I was doing like 3 jobs, and now there's 3 people doing my 1 job. And then I gave that person kind of a rundown of like basic functions, and then we had the new director to teach her the rest of what I had showed her. So it was a year in total. And then I extended it by a few months because they needed me to stay a little bit longer. I apologize if I missed it, but what will you be doing now? I'm doing YouTube. Why did you leave your full-time job? I had kind of explained that. It was kind of getting to a point where I wasn't going to be able to do YouTube the way that I wanted to. And leaving my job wasn't my first instinct. Like, I had known that it was coming time. They had been talking to me about promotions, about moving, and I knew that it was coming. So what I was trying to do was, I know a lot of you guys remember me interviewing at another place. It was in my same industry, and I had done 3 or 4 interviews with him, and I was so confident that I was going to get this job. And it was basically doing what I had done before, working with entertainment, travel, and tours. My position that I was doing more recently was more like events, festivals, different kinds of things like that in the cities, smaller conferences. So I was basically going back to what I was doing before, all in the same industry, but that company had another like sister location that decided to close for 1.5 years for renovation. All of their staff was going to get laid off, so the position that I applied for was given to someone at their sister location, and any other open positions they tried to employ as many of their own as they could, which I understood. So after that interview went kind of left and they hired someone within their company, I decided that I was like for sure going to leave. I know some of this sounds conflicting, but that's how life is, you know. At first I was like, okay, I'm gonna give myself 1 year, then I want to be working for myself. Then after all of the promotion talk and everything, I was like, you know, if I stay in a position like this, I can continue to do YouTube and do what I like. So I'm gonna try to get another position like this. And then when that went downhill, I was like, back to the original plan. By April, I'll just do it on my own. I hope that makes sense. How did you financially prepare before you quit? I talked about that. I made a budget. I paid off any existing things, and then I saved. And thoughts for those in a quarter-century crisis. So the thoughts for those in a quarter-century crisis that are like, I'm ready to jump ship, I'm ready to do a startup, I'm ready to do this stuff, wait. Just wait. I feel like we get so caught up in like, I want to do my own thing, this job is wasting my time and all this stuff, but your job isn't wasting your time. I think it's really important to value our jobs and our positions because it's free education. Everything that I do here on YouTube, every sponsorship that I get, that all came from things that I learned from working in the sales and marketing department at my job. When it comes to coaching, those are all things that I learned from being in trainings and learning how to train other people. So if you run an Etsy shop, or you want to start a subscription box service, or whatever it is, you can learn things from your current job, whether it's like policies and procedures that they have surrounding returns, rather it's the way that they handle their customer service. Whatever it is, you're learning, and it's free and it's tried and true because it's an existing company that's running and that's successful. So take everything that you need from your job while you're there, and on top of that, you're getting paid for it. Like, you're getting paid for this free advice and free knowledge. So instead of thinking of it as like you're just working there to pay the bills, take everything that you can. Ask to shadow in other departments that you haven't shadowed in before. Go around to every friggin' department in that place. Shadow a couple times, see how different things run, because these are all things that you're going to need to know to make sure that you're successful when it is time to leave your job. So don't just sit there and wallow and do a half-assed job. Pay attention, listen, learn, take note. That's my advice. Did you consider going back to work once you were back in Texas? No, because I had already kind of made my decision prior. But, oh, I think that's actually another question. What was your process to becoming self-employed, and how did you find your thing? So my thing is I just talk a lot. And that's always been kind of my thing. I used to get in trouble in school for talking too much. Eventually that morphed into me going to a performing arts school. Doing improv was always like, even though I was a musical theater major, improv is always where I got the most laughs, and it really played into the way that I grew as a person. Like the quirky, fun, little winks, the little charisma that I have, that all came from being a performer. And did I think that I'd be performing on YouTube? Yeah, kinda, because my first channel was all music covers. I used to be in a girl group. I did monologues on that channel. On my second channel, I did all makeup, and then I had a vlog channel too, and then I merged them together, which became this channel, which was all makeup for a while. Then it was all body positivity. Then I started working in vegan stuff and what I ate in a days. Now I'm back to body positivity, that kind of thing. So I think you don't find your thing. Your thing has always been a part of you, and it's always something that you loved. So I don't think it's something that you find. I think it's something that you are. And I already talked about how I became self-employed. Hi there, I was wondering, what are the pros and cons that you noticed since leaving your job? And I kind of answered that with the whole like charity thing, community thing, and also not having, I thought I didn't have a work-life balance before. Now I really don't, because if I'm ever like bored, I just start working. So there's like no split. When your life is your work, there's no separation. It's just like everything's work all of the time. So that can be a pro and a con. There's less room for trial and error. There's less room for trial and error, because some things that you may absolutely love to do, they may not profit the way that you need them to. When this is your livelihood and not just your hobby anymore, you have to be a little bit more calculated about what you do and what you spend time on, because the return on investment has to be there. So that is something that can be, again, a pro or a con depending on what kind of mindset you have. For me, it's more of a con, because I like to do things that I love, not just things that make a profit. So those are kind of the pros and cons for me. Do you regret it? No. What was your family's reaction? I kind of talked about that. How did you know it was the right thing to do, and were you scared? Talked about that as well. This is full again. On to our second memory card. This wouldn't be a problem if I just talked less. How did you know it was the right thing to do, and were you scared? I did. I think I already answered that as well. Pretty much answered that. How was the adjustment? Any regrets? I don't have any regrets thus far. And how was the adjustment? At first it was a bit rough, because it took me a while to develop a system and a schedule, and to figure out what was worth my time, what wasn't worth my time, those types of things. And just like getting an LLC, getting a DBA, all of those good things, making sure that my contracts and all of those things were in order. Just basically good housekeeping for a business, because even if you don't want to call YouTube a business, it is. So that was just an adjustment phase, but I think I have a good flow now. Will you return to a regular 9-to-5? Probably at some point. Like next year, I want to launch a big website, and it's going to be more of like an interactive site than like a standard like Squarespace or Wix or anything like that. And it's going to be a pretty big investment, and I don't want to take out business loans. So I would rather work and save that money than have a business loan, pay off the business loan eventually, but be paying it off with massive amounts of interest, instead of just saving the money and having an interest-free transition. So I probably will return to a 9-to-5. I don't know if it'll be full-time. It'll likely be part-time. But yeah, I'll definitely work at some point. Do you worry about not having guaranteed financial security? No. Last year I kind of made a vow to, one, read my devotional more often, and also to trust God with the two things that I hold on to, like love and money. And as soon as I let those things go and really trusted him, so many amazing things have happened for me. And I know when I start to get stressed and worry about money, I like physically tell myself, stop it and trust God. And things have worked out in so many times where I'm like, there's no way that this is gonna, the ends are gonna meet, or that this is gonna come in at the time that I need it to, and they always do. And I know that that sounds absolutely bonkers to people that don't have faith, but I do not stress about any of that stuff. The next question is from someone that I know personally, and how did you get the courage to do it? Shh, please don't tell anyone. I low-key want to leave mine. One is, you work in an industry, like I was saying, for the quarter life century people, where you've learned so much at your job that you can apply to your personal brand, that I think it would be a perfect time for you to jump ship. And like I said on the previous courage question, is one, knowing that you have what you need to be successful, that you're willing to be scrappy, that you're willing to work as hard for yourself as you work for other people. So I remember 1 month my quota, or like my goal, was $1 million, and I made it in 2 weeks. And I was just thinking to myself, man, I just made this old German man and his 2 daughters so much richer. And I know how money is allocated. I know that some of it is going towards investment, but it is ultimately going into his pocket. And I was like, man, if I could make myself like 1/20th of that much and really just be working for myself instead of busting my butt for someone else, it would be worth it. You know, the stress and everything, and having to pursue companies and whatever it is, it's worth it. So I just say, knowing that you'll work as hard for yourself as you will, or as you do for your current company, and whatever else I said in that last courage question. The next question is, was it hard to adjust? I know you have YouTube, but do you ever feel bored? I never feel bored, and if you feel bored, you're doing it wrong. There's always something to be doing. Like, I'm working on a recipe book, and it's gonna take 2 years for me to do it, and I know I could do it quicker, but I really want to do it right, and I'm still trying to decide if I want it to be published or if I want it to be an ebook. So there's a lot that goes into things like that, like working on different kinds of ebooks, working on the yoga stuff. I'm in yoga teacher training, so there's always something to be done. So if there's a time where I'm bored, I ask myself, like, why were you willing to invest so much of your time into your 9-to-5 job, but you're not investing it into yourself? So then I think, like, why am I not investing in myself? Why am I sitting here bored, wasting time? Like, are you afraid of the growth? Are you scared? Do you not believe in yourself? Like, get down to the root of the issue, and then I will never feel bored, because most of the time it's like, oh, I don't know how to do such and such things, so I'm just gonna sit here instead. So instead of doing that, I reach out to other influencers and say, hey, I've been working on this thing, I've kind of hit a roadblock, I don't really know where to go from here, and then I figure it out. It's like everything's a learning process, and I spend a lot of time on sites like lynda.com. I want to start doing Skillshare. I haven't done it yet, but lynda.com is what I used at my old job. It had tuition reimbursement at my old job, so I had my tuition reimbursement go towards lynda.com, and it has like lots of courses on how to do different things, how to work DSLR cameras, all this kind of stuff. So I spend a lot of time learning if I'm bored, because I need to know things, because you're every department when you work for yourself. And if you see Skillshare sponsor a video soon, it's because I mentioned them here and I looked into it and I liked it. So yeah, lynda.com has been something I've used a lot. It's Lynda. Do you feel content with your decision? I think that content is the very best way to explain how I feel with my decision at this point in time. I'm very content. I'm looking forward to being even more excited as things grow and as I learn more, but I'm very content right now. How did you know it was time to step away from your full-time job? I've answered this a few times, but something else that I do want to say is that I read a book called Rework, R-E-W-O-R-K, and it really changed the way that I looked at owning your own business, making your side hustle your full-time job, entrepreneurship, and why you shouldn't use that word. It taught me so much. And that's kind of why my mind changed about like everything, and why I'm so open to working if I need to, because this book is not like your typical business book that's like, make a business plan, stick to your business plan. It's like, business plans don't work, especially if you've never run a business before. It's really irresponsible to project these expectations onto your business when you don't know what's going to happen into it. Don't quit your job before you need to. Use that money to fund your money, because investors are going to take your say away from your business, and loans are going to bury you eventually. Like, it gives you the most like straightforward, real advice that better than I could ever recommend. So Rework is an amazing book if you're looking to make that jump and get the courage to make the jump and realize when it's time to make the jump, when it's time to hire people, when you should learn something versus if you should outsource it, if it's smart to outsource certain things. It was just a fantastic book. So I definitely recommend Rework. So that basically is everything about why I left my job. Your questions covered it way better than my rambly BS could have covered it. I think that that covers pretty much everything. Yeah. So yeah, that's all. That's it. That's why I left my job. That's all the questions you guys have. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, remember to keep an open mind, keep an open heart, practice unconditional compassion, but don't take shit from anyone. I love you guys endlessly, and I hope you love yourselves even more. I'll talk to you really soon. Bye.